Arkansas has won 6 straight SEC games, and after a disappointing weekend in Athens, which sadly I was in attendance for, things couldn't look much better for the Razorbacks. They're winning games with guys not typically in the lineup scattered all across the field, and a lot of these usual starters that have missed time are on their way back. But in my opinion, the most underappreciated positive development out of Arkansas baseball right now is the reemergence of Zack Morris. We have driven into the ground all the injury problems that this Razorback team has faced. At this point, no one hasn't heard about how big of a loss Jackson Wiggins was. Everybody also knows how much it hurts to lose guys like Cody Frank and Dylan Carter for the season. Throw in the fact that Brady Tygert's missed the majority of the season as well. And at this point, Arkansas injuries have become this year's Jalen Battles stole DVH's number, or Robert Moore's dad works for the Royals. But one thing that hasn't been talked about much this year is Zack Morris's total drop-off from last year's production. Through his first 4 appearances this year, he allowed 10 earned runs through just 6 1/3. He was sporting an ERA high enough to get a learner's permit in the state of Arkansas, and he became a healthy scratch on what was an insanely unhealthy team. Despite the vacuum that was being left on the mound in Baum Walker, Morris made fewer appearances in the month of April this season than he did last year. But after the way he was throwing, who could really blame Dave Van Horn for not trusting him in big situations? Now, in case you forgot, Zack Morris became one of Arkansas's most dependable arms down the stretch last year. He appeared in 5 of their last 8 games going into the regionals, and of pitchers with at least 9 innings pitched for the year, he led the entire team in ERA. In the Stillwater Regional, he was actually called on to start the Game 7 matchup against Oklahoma State. It was his first start of the year, and he went 3 1/3 scoreless innings and exited with a 4-0 lead. In total that weekend, he threw 6 1/3 in the 2 wins against the Cowboys, with only 2 runs allowed. Those are basically Kevin Kopp's numbers, considering that teams in that regional averaged over 10.5 runs per game. His only appearance in the Supers came in the 9th inning of Game 2, when North Carolina had just taken the lead. He produced a quick out and set up the walk-off that would send the Hogs back to Omaha. In the College World Series, he saved the Razorbacks' season, at least for another day, when he came into the first elimination game against Ole Miss with the bases loaded and nobody out in the 9th inning. With only a 2-run lead, this was one of the most stressful situations a relief pitcher can come into. But he was able to get out of the jam and force another game. Anyone would have expected the senior to have a major role this year, especially after all the injuries started to pile up. You could make an argument that his struggles on the mound were just as impactful as an injury. That's a key piece that you thought you were going to be able to rely on that's just been completely removed from your arsenal. Since his rocky start to the season, though, he's made 10 appearances where he gave up 12 and 17 innings. The thing that's been really encouraging to me, however, have been his last 3 outings. He's gone a combined 6 2/3 innings, allowing only 3 earned runs on 2 hits and 3 walks. And even those 3 runs weren't actually scored while he was still on the mound. Against Texas A&M, he left the game with the bases loaded and 2 outs after this potentially inning-ending pitch was called a ball. He then headed to the dugout where he watched Arkansas struggle to get some outs. So I understand that these runs are still attributed to Zack, but some things you can't read in a box score, and this makes me feel a lot better for him moving forward than if he had given up 3 straight solo shots on 3 pitches. He followed that up with 2 hitless innings against Lipscomb, as well as 3 hitless against Mississippi State, in which he shut down the Bulldogs after they started to make some noise in the middle innings. If Zack Morris can continue this trend, resembling his past self, and further gaining the trust of his coaching staff, he could play a massive role in postseason play. With guys like Smith, Holland, McIntyre, Wood, Adcock, and now Tigert already being arms that you feel like you can trust when you need them, if you can add Zack Morris back to that mix like he was a year ago, then you legitimately have a staff that gives you a chance to make a deep run. And honestly, the fact that that's even possible after what this team has been through is unreal. Dave Van Horn's the Coach of the Year.